In the heart of the city, there's a library unlike any other. This isn't your typical quiet reading space. It's a labyrinth, a place where the boundaries between reality and the fantastical blur. People enter, drawn by the allure of knowledge and mystery, but some never return. They don't just get lost among the shelves, they get lost in them. You see, this library is alive, and it's hungry. I'm not the librarian, but I'm the assistant. My job is to find those who wander too far into the depths, who cross the invisible line between the known and the unknown. The library is filled with nooks and crannies, hidden corridors, and forgotten rooms that seem to move on their own. People come here looking to get lost in a good book, but sometimes the books get lost in them. I don't work alone. The library has its own guardians, the watchers and listeners. The watchers, unseen by all but the most perceptive, patrol the shelves, keeping an eye on everything. The listeners, on the other hand, are more elusive. They hear everything, the shuffle of feet, the turn of a page, the heartbeat of someone who shouldn't be there. They help guide me, but even with their assistance, the search is never easy. One day, a watcher approached me with bad news. Someone had crossed the tape. Now the tape is more than just a boundary, it's a warning. It marks the edge of the safe areas beyond which the library becomes something else entirely. When someone crosses the tape, they enter a place where the walls shift, the corridors stretch, and the very air seems to thicken with an oppressive weight. It's not just a different part of the library, it's another world, one where the usual rules don't apply. I knew I had to act fast. I geared up, strapping on my utility belt, filled with tools that only work within the library's walls. I grabbed my helmet, an old-fashioned thing that looked like it belonged to a deep-sea diver, and my flamethrower. The flamethrower wasn't just for show. Sometimes light is the only thing that can keep the shadows at bay. I took a deep breath, and with the watchers guiding me, I crossed the tape. As soon as I stepped over the line, the atmosphere changed. The air grew colder, thicker, as if the library itself was pressing in on me. The whispers began almost immediately. Soft at first, like the rustling of pages in a distant corner. But they grew louder, more insistent, until I realized they were calling my name. It was a trap, of course, meant to lead me astray. But I knew better. I focused on the task at hand, pushing forward into the darkness. The listeners were my only guides now, their whispers pulling me through the labyrinth. They led me down winding corridors, past shelves filled with books that seemed to watch me as I passed. The further I went, the more the library twisted around me, the walls closing in, the shadows deepening. I could feel the presence of something watching me, something ancient and malevolent, lurking just out of sight. Finally, after what felt like hours, I found her. She was slumped against a shelf, a book clutched in her hands. But this wasn't just any book. It was alive, its pages wrapped around her head like a mask, feeding on her life force. The sound she made wasn't breathing. It was more like a desperate wheeze, the last gasp of someone being consumed. I had to act quickly. This wasn't the first time I'd encountered one of these cursed books, but that didn't make it any easier. The book had a hold on her, a bond that couldn't be broken by force. I reached for a vial on my belt, filled with a substance that had no scent but held immense power. I poured a small amount onto the spine of the book, and both the book and the girl let out a wail that sent chills down my spine. The bond began to weaken, but it wasn't enough. The library was reacting to my presence, the walls closing in, the shadows growing darker. I could feel something coming, something drawn by the disturbance I had caused. There was no time to waste. I gripped the book and pulled, but it fought back, its pages clinging to her skin like a leech. With a final, desperate tug, I pulled it free, and the girl collapsed into my arms, her face pale and gaunt but alive. But we weren't safe yet. The air around us grew colder, the shadows lengthened, and I knew we had to move. The library wasn't going to let us go without a fight. I hoisted the girl over my shoulder and ran, the library twisting and shifting around us, trying to trap us within its depths. The listeners guided me, their whispers urging me on, leading me back to the tape. As we neared the boundary, I felt something behind us, something dark and terrible. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel its breath on my neck, hear the growl in its throat. Just as we crossed the tape, I turned and fired the flamethrower, sending a burst of light and heat into the darkness. The creature howled and retreated, disappearing back into the depths of the library. We were safe, for now. I collapsed into a chair, the girl still unconscious but breathing steadily. She would recover, though it would take time. I stared into the darkened stacks, knowing the library was still watching, still hungry. It had let us go this time, but there would be others. There always are. You see, the library is more than just a place to read. It's a living, breathing entity, a place where the line between reality and nightmare is razor thin. And if you ever find yourself there, be careful where you wander, because once you cross that line, there's no guarantee you'll ever find your way back. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't let the darkness end here. Make sure to hit that like button. It helps summon more tales from the shadows. Share these encounters with those who dare to listen. You never know who else might be haunted by what they find. And don't forget to subscribe. Join our growing circle of seekers, exploring the mysteries that hide in the dark. Turn on notifications, so you're the first to know when a new story emerges from the depths. Until next time, stay vigilant. You never know what might be